Thabiti, one of the interesting things about church government and the theological discussion about what we ought to do in terms of leading the church is that Baptists and Presbyterians have, among all Protestants, shared a very important agreement, even though we have disagreements in the specifics about how we think a local church ought to be governed. And that fundamental agreement that we share is that both Baptists and Presbyterians have historically believed that the Bible is to inform and direct the way that the church is governed at the local level. There are many other Protestants who believe that though there may be some random principles that can be deducted from the Bible, that it's perfectly appropriate to accept tradition, to bring in pragmatic considerations, even at the foundational and principial level of how you do church government. And Baptists and Presbyterians have said, no, we believe that all of the principles for how the church is to be governed are provided for us by God in Scripture. We recognize that there are hundreds and hundreds of decisions that we have to make according to the light of nature and to our best judgment in submission to Scripture, but the fundamental principles come from the Bible. That's one of the reasons I appreciate Mark Dever and Nine Marks Ministries. You and I both benefited from Mark's work there. It's one reason I encourage Presbyterians to read that material, because Mark takes ecclesiology very seriously in his desire to be biblical. So even as we talk about elders and congregational government, I think it's important for people to recognize that we share a significant commonality that we wouldn't say with many of our Anglican brethren, who on the whole don't believe that the Bible provides an authoritative form of church government.
Yeah, and that's an important starting point, because theologically what we're acknowledging is the sufficiency of Scripture.
Exactly.
God has told us enough about how to organize things. And again, particulars and details may vary, but if you don't have that, in my opinion, if you don't have that principial agreement, then you and I would be having a different conversation.
Very much so.
We just wouldn't be able to.
That's right.
We wouldn't even have a plumb line for sort of saying, yeah, this is according to rule, or this isn't. And so it becomes difficult to be fruitful without that kind of principial agreement about the sufficiency of Scripture.
So if you were going to explain to someone, based on the convictions that you have derived from Holy Scripture, who is to lead the church, elders, or is the congregation to lead itself? How would you talk about that?
Yeah, well, first I would say Christ leads the church.
Yes.
Christ is the only,
he's the king
and he's the King of
Yes.
Kings and Lord of Lords,
Right.
and he's the chief shepherd.
Yeah.
And the way he administers his rule is by his word. So we come back to the word again in the church. And he's put his word in the hands of qualified men, qualified elders. 1 Timothy 3, Titus 1, men who are able to teach and able to use the Scripture